So this is a bit of vintage audio I found on my SoundCloud. This one is titled Foreign Travel, but it's really about my trip to Europe. So through this video, I pulled some pictures from my European trip to kind of go along with the storytelling. They're in order of the travel, so I flew from Seattle to Paris, took the train to London, took a bus to Southwest England, explored Bristol and Bath, and then took a bus back to London, flew to Reykjavik, Iceland, stayed there for a couple days, then flew back to Seattle. And so the pictures are kind of in that order, but I kind of talk about traveling overseas, some of the experiences I had, some of the stuff that I saw, some of the interesting things that I did, and some of the cultural quirks and things that I ran into along the way. And so it's just a fun kind of short thing about that. Like I said, it's some audio that I uploaded, I think even before I was doing a podcast several years ago. I'm just plumbing the archives for some back catalog stuff that hasn't had exposure in the new ecosystem. So enjoy this little audio recording and the fun pictures from my trip to Europe. This is late 2015, so bear that in mind. And there's a couple pictures of Notre Dame pre-fire in there as well. So enjoy that, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks for watching. So I just got back from 2 months in Europe, mostly in the UK. I was a week in Paris, which was amazing, and the food was good, and the sights were awesome, and all this sort of thing. And then I I went to the UK. I got to go through the Channel, which was quite amazing. You go into a hole and it's dark for about 45 minutes and you pop out the other side and you're in England. And so that was quite spectacular. Now, travel for me is difficult. Mostly because I travel like it's 1912. Like, do you remember in Titanic? And there she is with like her pile of luggage and that huge fabulous hat and the dress and everything. Well, I don't have the hat or the dress, but I do travel with that much luggage. I have on the trip I took a garment bag, I had a hard-sided piece of luggage, I had a backpack and a rolling carry-on. I packed up the whole house and took it with me to Europe, much to the apoplectic shock of some check-in workers. When I was checking into Heathrow on my way home, he just looked at my cart of luggage and just, I think he was just had a heart attack. I felt like I needed to give him some aspirin or something. Like, here, take this, calm down. Like, it'll be okay. Like, I was had to weigh my backpack, I had to weigh everything, all this sort of thing. It's becoming frustrating. It's becoming frustrating. Um, Carry on baggage requirements are insane. There is no knee room on the plane. It used to be that you would have like the seat in front and like maybe a few inches. But now you get in, and of course I always sit on the window cuz I like to sleep on a plane. So, you tuck yourself in, you you finally get sat down there. I always put the armrest up for comfort. Um it's I can kind of fit in, but it's kind of a little tight around my hips. And so I always put the armrest up. And then so you sit down in there, and then your knees are right up against the seat in front of you. I mean, absolutely right up against. There's no room whatsoever. So whatever you put under the seat, unless I guess you're small enough, or your legs are short enough, whatever have you, you absolutely 110% have to have that in your lap before you sit down. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get back under there. And heaven help you if there is any piece of airplane equipment under there, because then you're in trouble. Because then there might not be enough room for whatever you have. So after all of this, I decided something very important and very crucial. I am not taking anything beyond maybe a shoulder bag with my laptop in it onto a plane. I'm just not. And I noticed as I was sitting in airports, because I spent a lot of time in airports and train stations and bus stations, I took almost every form of transportation besides camel. Uh, in on this trip, and I noticed that everyone, they're like carrying around like a little laptop bag, maybe something very like a rolling laptop case, whatever have you, very small, very demure, nothing spectacular. And I just noticed that when it comes to carrying stuff on planes, people just aren't anymore because the baggage regulations are just so draconian. And now I'm the type of person, my personal item, which was my backpack and my carry-on, was overflow from the luggage that had to weigh 50 pounds. So everything that didn't fit got stuffed in the others. And the airlines have gotten wise to our little scheme. So I'm stuck with now having to take like a pair of pants on a trip, just the one I'm wearing, and that's it. A pair of shoes, and you really have to just combined down. It makes it difficult when you travel for long periods of time. And of course, I'm not the typical traveler. I'm not one who's only going for a weekend or a couple days. No, when I'm usually going, I'm going for a week, I'm going for 10 days, all this sort of thing, and then you end up just having to take a whole lot less. So, I have a couple of flying trips coming up, and I will be taking very little. Like cell phone, wallet, keys, laptop, that's it. Clothes, very little. My one pillow because I sleep elevated, and that's it. Travel has just absolutely gone insane. I have finally given in to the airlines. Like I have finally given it up, and I'm like, all right, I get your message. You basically don't want me to take anything. If you could figure out a way so that I take nothing on your plane, so that you could save on weight, you would. And I get your message. I see it, and I am now going to finally give it up. I'm going to succumb, and I'm going to carry a very demure bag, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it very small, very petite, and just do that. And I'll have my one piece of luggage at 50 pounds, and that's all that I will do. And I will, not have very many shoes and not have very many clothes and just not have very much anything, to make sure that I can fit in your draconian weight regulations. Which is kind of funny considering the price of oil is down, which means the price of jet fuel is down, which means the airlines are making money now, of course, because fuel prices are down. And so, you know, it just seems impossible. But living overseas is amazing though. It is awesome. When you live overseas, you kind of realize how different America is from so many other places. It's really quite stark. In fact, it's quite remarkable how, and it's not just the subtle differences, but it's like in the chances you get to talk to people, people's rather interesting perceptions in our country, and just how we have to have everything different. I'll give you some examples. Example number one, we're not on the metric system or the System International, which I think is incredibly annoying. Number two, we have to have a different name for everything than like everyone else. Like obviously some things are the same, a taxi's a taxi and all this sort of thing. But then like we have chips in America, but they're crisps in Great Britain. And in fact, when I came back, I asked a woman in Olympia by mistake, 'cause I've been in Britain for so long and I've been saying crisps for so long. I absentmindedly asked for a Polish sausage and crisps, and she was like she almost could not even, because she like stood back. She was like, "Oh my goodness, you sound like a foreign person. I better get someone." I'm like, "No, no, 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 I'm fine. I'm from here. Chips, please." She just was taken aback, and it's that just certain lack of exposure, certainly, but also just the interesting, way that things are different, and the little things you find out that other countries are doing that just haven't quite made it here yet. Like decent subsidized housing and free medical care for everyone and this sort of thing. It's just it just is those little differences and changes that make things that make things odd. And sometimes you stick your foot in it. I was taking a taxi ride in Britain, and a route that I usually walked, but I was feeling a bit lazy that day, so I decided to take a cab. And of course, they drive on the left side of the road, whereas we drive on the right. And so he's on the left side, and I'm looking at my phone absent-mindedly, and I'm kind of like, I'm like, yeah, you're. I said, yeah, that's great. But we have to go the other way. And he's like, well, I'm about to make a right turn, because they have to make a right turn like we make left turns. So even though for me, I felt like we were about to go left because we were in that what would have been the left turn lane on an American road, we were actually going right. So sometimes you say dumb things just because you're not used to things, and that is where travel is a seasoning process, and you start to get so used to, especially when you're overseas for a long time, getting used to the way things are, the way people talk, the way they walk, how much smaller things are, and fewer cars and mass transportation, all these types of things, that America just does start to become a foreign land. And it's kind of funny because, for what other countries and other people take for granted, we oftentimes just don't have in this country, which I think is kind of funny because people think, we're very stupid for not, doing it like other people do it. I met this one girl who was like, oh, I can't imagine, paying for education. Like, you guys pay all this money for education. She's like, why? She's like, I don't even understand. Like, it's education. Like, why would you pay for that? And so, in that way, I think after living in Europe and being surrounded by mostly by non-Americans. In fact, I only met one American on my trip outside of my friends that live in Glastonbury. Um, that only one of my friends was American, outside of them. All this sort of thing we're kind of backwards. I mean, you just kind of realize how backwards we are. It's like we pay for education, we pay for healthcare, we don't have mass transportation, there's no social safety net for people. If you don't have money in this country, you're beyond screwed. And it just is in stark relief how incredibly backwards America is compared to quote unquote more civilized nations. And I found that really really interesting. And it's kind of funny because it's kind of a global joke. Like, as much as we are powerful and respected and can get things done, when it comes to the way we treat our people, we're kind of a joke. And I didn't really fully understand that until after this trip. We're a bit of a joke. Really and truly. We really. That's all for this episode of the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Visit us online at CameronJournal.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I love to talk to my followers and listeners, so please feel free to get us on social media at Cameron Cowan on Twitter, and we'll see you next time on the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you.